Sup gamers, and welcome back to a different type of video actually. Today I'll be showing you what to do and not to do in Rise of Nations. And some of these you might already know, but some you probably don't know as well. So yeah, also please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because if this video does well, then I can do a part 2. And if you have some suggestions that you want me to put in part 2, you can just leave them down in the comments. So yeah, let's get right into it. First one is quite simple and not really that important, but it's still something that you need to learn. You need to learn to use shortcuts instead of the way cringier and old way of just moving your mouse and clicking the flag method. And you may be wondering why. Obviously it's way more convenient just clicking Q and the tab opens instead of having to go and click the flag. And sometimes when you need to be quicker during a war, you kind of just need to use shortcuts. They'll save you a lot more time than you think. And now we head to the doctrines, and if you look at them, all of them have their own good benefits. But specialization, in my opinion, is just horrible. It completely kills your manpower gain. Like, how are you supposed to use the children of Gabon to fight in the Gabon-Kazakhstan war? Like, come on. And specialization is just not the way to do it. In my opinion, starting off at level 3 infantry is not good when you're losing that much manpower. Sometimes I recommend just leaving it on balanced, or maybe even going mass attack if it's not an inconvenience and you need a lot of manpower. The third one is not so important, but you don't have to always develop all the cities. Developing only the bigger cities in a country sometimes is better, because upgrading some small city in Bhutan won't change much compared to upgrading Kolkata or Cairo or some other major city. And you save more money by not having to develop all of them, and you get a good chunk of money back from upgrading the big cities. And by big cities, I mean square cities, 1 million plus population cities. Learn to use military generals right at the start of the game. You have to be using all that XP that you're gaining from taking those AI nations right off the bat. It'll give you an advantage in war when your general is a higher level than the opponent's general. If the RNG gods deem you are not halal mode and give you the worst possible generals in the game, just try your luck every time and replace the current general with some better one. And if you can't, then this one is super important. Always rush consumer goods. Consumer goods are probably the most important resource in the game, just because of the amount of stability you get just by having them. And you can just start pumping them out after you make the first 5 factories. What I usually do is I always start out with steel and motor factories, and then electronic, and then fertilizer, and then civilian factory. But if you're rushing electronic factories so you can sell the electronics to make a lot more money, then just make steel, motor, fertilizer, then civilian factories. Never lower taxation laws. Taxation laws are something I did not touch because I feel like I'm just too stupid to try anything there. But lowering taxation laws for extra stability is so useless and just worse, because you end up losing money and the stability won't make up for it. Instead, if you need stability, just use the consumer goods or use the Neutrality Act or any policy that gives you base stability. Now this one is probably just as important as the consumer goods. Never forget to use government spending and research spending. When I first started playing this game, I never even looked at the government and research spending, even though they are just so good. Government spending gives you more political power, and research spending gives you more research points. So just be careful when you're using it, because you will go in deficit if you do not have enough money to pay for them. Research spending, government spending can be really expensive, and they are based off of how big your country is. So for example, Bulgaria spends way less money on government spending and research spending than China. So a really good thing to do is sell electronics and turn government spending and research spending to max if you're playing a tiny country and you barely pay anything for something so useful. This one is just more of a don't be a dick type thing. Just never make factions. Factions are probably the #1 enemy of every Rise of Nations lobby. Once a USA or China makes a faction, every nation under the sun just joins, and you can't even try to attack them because you can't appease them unless you take out the leader of the faction. That's usually like a superpower. A better alternative is just to make allies instead of making a faction. This is really important. Always get limited conscription. Limited conscription barely does anything to your economy, and you will just get tons of manpower in return. Sometimes it's better to even get limited conscription first instead of getting into ideology, because if you're a small country, usually small countries have problems with manpower gain, and so limited conscription just fixes that, and you are good for the rest of the game. You don't really need manpower anymore. This one is really important as well. I keep saying they're really important, but they actually are. So only build factories in big cities, like 1 million plus cities or capital cities. The bigger the city that you made the factory on, the more money you get from it. And if you're playing a small nation, this is especially important, because if you're making the 5 factories that you need for the consumer goods, you'll be making 1.25 million income from that one city alone. Each factory gives you up to $250,000 worth of resource income, and this also depends on the factory, because a factory like steel tends to give less resource income than an electronic factory. So if you're facing that problem where just steel is not giving the 250,000, then just develop the city that you made the factory on. That's it from me for this video. If you enjoyed it, please, again, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and leave your suggestions down below. What other things should I add in the next part if you want to see that. Also, I'm really sorry that I have not uploaded in 2 months. Rise of Nations has just been super boring for me. There's been no update since so long, and yeah, I've just been playing other games. I'm trying to get back into it more and more, and honestly, I'll try, and I probably will try and make some more videos like these, because they're easy to make and they're actually kind of fun to make as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and goodbye.